He is 89 years old, and Harry Belafonte has been on the front lines all his life in his quest for social justice. In our last interview, we recently had, we talked about, of course, Colin Kaepernick. That wasn't just it. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff in the more than an hour conversation. We also were joined by Carmen Perez, a social justice activist with Harry Belafonte. They fill me in on the upcoming Music, Arts, and Justice Festival, Many Rivers to Cross. This is the first part of our interview.
The absence of black presence by celebrity is a serious loss to our potential use of power to make a difference. So I invited all the artists I could think of to come for a two-day festival down in Atlanta to celebrate criminal justice as a festival. It's called Many Rivers to Cross, based upon a great song. And in it, all the artists will sing to songs that in content speak about the plight of black people. So artist after artist after artist, I've looked at all the songs that will be sung. I look at what Jamie Foxx will be saying and what he will sing. I've looked at John Legend and what he will say and what he will sing. I've looked at Alice Smith. I've looked at Carmen. I've talked to Chuck D, whom I love madly, and what he brings to the table. And I think those who come will be more than rewarded with what they see of black presence speaking to these issues. I also add this, and I'll be through on this subject, it is that what also surprises me is the number of artists that told me no.
Really?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, there are some artists that told me yes in the light of enthusiasm, in the first rush, and were they pressed to really define what would be asked of them, what kind of songs to sing, and what they should be turning their attention to comment on, stepped away. They don't want the blemish. They don't want the burden of responsibility. And I was really quite surprised.
And how did that make you feel?
Made me feel sad, because the particular people that I'm talking about that stepped away were the ones that I least suspected that would have done that. And because I have no right to hold anybody hostage to what I think and what I want to do, they're exempt from any act of coming on board, so to speak. I don't want to blackmail them into this. So when these artists said no, I said, okay, I hear you.
But you do remember who said no?
I'll never forget. And on occasion, I'll make sure they don't forget either.
I think Mr. B's vision has always been to bring together activists. And a lot of activists are connected to artists. You know, we certainly work with a lot of artists, and working with Mr. Belafonte, you know, he constantly talks about artists are the gatekeepers to truth, their civilization's radical voice. And we as activists really need to come together to plan what our next move is going to be collectively. We need a black and brown agenda, and we need a strategy in order for implementation, because we are now going to be moving into a different cycle where there are some very negative implications in our communities because of it. And so I think right now, this has been planned, I think, since Mr. Belafonte has always talked about this. And for me, it's exciting to see that it's now happening. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to also share a stage with artists, and also build relationship with artists who can use their platform to amplify the work that we're doing on the ground.
Carlos, there's also another dimension to this. Why now? Why at this particular moment?
Right.
Because here and now we've never had the issues as clearly and sharply drawn as they are today. We've never had a black president before that had a backlash. We've never had a president that has had the kind of backlash that Barack Obama has had. I mean, race rushed into the room to declare itself alive and present and angry at the idea that there's a black man daring to speak for America in the halls of justice and in the hall of solution globally. White people woke up, most of them were asleep. Nobody ever dreamed that Barack Obama would become president. And when crackers woke up to see the White House full with a black voice and black issues that could be discussed from a black perspective, it sent them into orbit. But we never had the nation declare itself so openly on the issues of race as it does today, and certainly as articulated through Trump. I mean, the things that Donald Trump says about Latinos, about blacks, about youth, about criminality, about women, all the things. Nobody has ever stepped to the forefront with that agenda as openly declared as he has. And I think that should have stimulated millions of people to hit the ground running on issues that he has raised, that so many, 13 million people who support him, or at least that's the number that's being bantered around. That's a lot of people. 13 million is as large as the population of some nations in the world. Well, if you got 13 million people declaring their support for this kind of social philosophy, why are the rest of us sitting back? What are we waiting to happen?
What do you want those in attendance, first artists in the public, when they leave, to do?
I would like for them to get involved in their local organizing efforts. And also, I think one of the things that we're hearing a lot in this election cycle is that we don't have any candidates that we are fully supporting. And I really am asking for the community to go out and vote and to register somebody to vote. And the fact that this is happening right before the election is a perfect opportunity to continue on that path and that message.
The voice of the people is the most powerful tool we have in America. If the community is not heard from, presidents don't feel they have to do anything. Politicians don't feel they have to do anything except raise money to get reelected on a non-issue campaign.
For you, what do you want to see him do with the gathering that he has not done yet?
Oh, that is a great question. I should have been thinking about that.
Is there something that you want him to do that he hasn't done? And I'll let you off the hook by saying, is there something that maybe he's done but you want to see more of?
I think Mr. Belafonte has lent his service to the gathering and his vision, and I certainly am working with him so that we could develop these manifestos that could guide new activists and guide the movement. And so I would like for that to come together soon, and for us to continue to spend time together. But I personally know that Mr. Belafonte is 89, and I want to see him live out the rest of his life doing what he loves, and that's music, and that's creation. But lending a voice to the work that we do within the gathering and the movement, and also his vision and his guidance. And certainly I would love to bring as many young people to listen to him, because everything that he says is so on point, and he drops so many gems, and I sometimes feel I wish I could just pocket everything and hand it out, because Mr. Belafonte has a lot of depth, and he has a lot of wisdom and so much commitment, and allows us to see things in a very different way. But I personally would like to dismantle the machine that he's always asked us to dismantle.
When the music stops, when the speeches stop, when the dialogue stops on the second, what do you want the artists and the people attending to then do?
When all those things stop, what you've just suggested is that life has ended.
Man, I just mean that weekend.
I mean that
when they got to go home.
Period, I mean that period of our history. I was reared on the fact that Paul Robeson was my mentor. I was in a play in the American Negro Theater. I went to learn about theater. I fell in love with what I saw. And Paul Robeson came to see us as young players, to see what young black artists were doing. There was Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis and Sidney Poitier, this young crowd trying to make its way in the world of the performing arts. And he said that we had chosen a noble profession in the arts because he felt that artists were the gatekeepers of truth. He said artists are the moral compass of civilization, and they're also civilization's radical voice. And when I stepped into the idea of being a performer, it was about spreading the radical thought, about spreading ideas and bringing plays to impact upon audiences about social injustice. The idea that all you do is to entertain and make money is a very recent phenomenon. We've always had to be paid, but there was never a distinctive line drawn between the entertaining and being a social voice. That's a recent phenomenon. Everybody's off being an entertainer. Very little is being said from the social perspective in great art today. So I expect the artists to leave behind an instructed audience, to leave behind an audience that's been led to someplace emotionally where they'll give thought to the State of the Union.
More of our exclusive with Harry Belafonte tomorrow right here on NewsOne Now. Don't forget the Many Rivers to Cross Festival will take place October 1st and 2nd in Atlanta. Go to Sankofa, SANKOFA.org for tickets and more information.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.